MPH Sports Podcast. Talk sport and property with sports people discussing their careers and how property played a part in it.
Tom Stephenson, welcome to Talk Sport and Property. Thanks for coming in to see us. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see someone in person for once and actually have some face-to-face contact.
Well, firstly, I wanted to say happy birthday. How young are we today?
We are 27 today, but like I said, mentioned to you earlier, it's not like a normal birthday for reasons we'll come on to later. No, it's nice and the sun's shining, so yeah, good day so far.
Cool. Well, look, thanks for coming in, mate, because obviously there's some real important cause behind this podcast, which we're going to announce a bit later on. So I know you listened to a few of the pods that we've done with other professional athletes, but this is all about talking sport and talking property. The first half, we're going to talk about your career. Then we're going to break it up with a quick fire question round, and then we're going to talk about property. So let's start. Born in Oxford, as you said, 27 years of age as of today, 54 professional appearances at Northampton Saints and London Irish, England international at under 18s and under 20s, but it all started for you at Northampton Saints. So when did you fall in love with the game and when did you join the academy?
So I pretty fell in love with the game age 5 or so, watching my brother play and all that, and I was a huge Northampton Saints fan. So when I joined the academy age kind of 16, it was almost like a dream come true. I still didn't really believe I was going to play professional rugby or anything. It was all very much a hobby back then, but then I started to go up the England ranks and I was like, I could make a career out of this. And then age 18 got handed my first professional contract, and then from there it kind of took off a little bit and had a lot of success early on, I guess. Age 19, winning the Premiership with Saints, played in the final, and then that was obviously a bit of a whirlwind year and a huge boost to the ego, I guess, which then took off even more after that. Went into the World Cup with England 20s, ended up winning that 2 years running, and it was all going pretty great, to be honest. And rugby and sporting life seemed at the time quite easy, but quickly found out it wasn't.
I love talking about athletes' debuts. I think it's a real special focus point in an athlete's career. You made your debut for Saints, your boyhood club, the club that you obviously grew up loving, in 2012 against Harlequins. Was that a day you remember well?
No, it wasn't actually. That debut wasn't, because I slipped over and missed a tackle and they scored. So that debut I try not to forget, because that was actually an LV Cup debut. So that wasn't the Premiership debut. The Premiership debut I remember better because I had a better game. But okay. So that was like kind of a race. So thanks for bringing it up, Lee. No, like obviously running out Franklin's Gardens. I don't know if you've ever been to Franklin's Gardens on a full match day. I'd say it's probably the best rugby stadium in terms of atmosphere in England. Premiership level anyway, and the fans are pretty awesome. So running out there was kind of a dream come true anyway, and then obviously being lined up with the likes of Tom Wood, George North, Stephen Miner, Dylan Hartley and people like that was pretty crazy. But yeah, it was a pretty special day playing there.
And was you a player that's maybe sort of suffered some sort of pre-match nerves or anything, or was you just nice and calm? I
think on your debut, everyone, if they're saying they don't, I think I'm probably lying a little bit. But I wasn't the type of guy, to be sick in the bin or before a game like some guys were marching around the changing room with their earphones in. I was very much relaxed, probably a little bit too relaxed sometimes. Probably people wish I kind of shut up and just put my earphones in. But I was quite a relaxed character, I guess. Yeah.
So you became a real staple member of that senior side in 2013, 2014, where you experienced a real crazy, memorable season, winning the Premiership trophy and the European Cup. I mean, what a first season that must have been. Would you mind sharing your experience with us? Because I know I've had the Wallers on the pod before, and I know a lot of this already, but I want to know it from obviously your perspective. Yeah,
I mean, obviously I was 19 years old, and I'm sure, like they said, our team was pretty ridiculous. We had pretty star-studded names, like I mentioned earlier. But it was like a season, which is why it probably was quite, looking back on it, reflecting, it was quite annoying it happened so early, because we used to turn up to every game every weekend and deep down we just thought we were going to win, because it didn't really matter if we weren't at our best. We knew that was enough to win. We only lost like 2 or 3 games that season. So it was amazing, to be honest. Like walking out onto the pitch with those guys and just knowing you didn't have to beat your best and you could win still. Well, it was pretty special. And what it meant is, I think a lot of people who play professional sport and in life in general, when stuff's going well, stuff off the pitch, it's more relaxed. So we were going out a lot, having a lot of fun. But because we were winning, it was like no one was arguing with it. So it was an enjoyable couple of years on and off the pitch.
But it didn't just continue there, did it? Because after that season, you travelled with England under-20s to New Zealand for the Junior World Cup Championships, where you, as you mentioned earlier, you won incredibly for 2 years running. I mean, that is a remarkable achievement. I mean, do you mind sort of opening up and sharing those experiences with us a little bit more?
I think you'll start to get the gist of my career. Again, we had an amazing team. So I think a lot of my success was down to other people early on, definitely. But those 2 years with the England squad, we had, our two teams, we had people like Mario Togier, Jack Noel, Anthony Watson, Henry Slade, Sam Hill, Luke Candicky, Carl Sinclair. Our team was ridiculous. They're all playing international stuff now. So I was very fortunate, and again, it was a bit like Northampton. We went into games kind of expecting to win, not in an arrogant way, typically English, but we just knew if we turned up, we were going to win. And even against the unknowns of like South Africa and New Zealand, who we never played before, it was a pretty cool experience. Especially being away in New Zealand, winning that World Cup was amazing. And it was literally, so we won the Premiership final on the Saturday, and I had to fly out to New Zealand on the Sunday. So I missed the first 2 weeks of that World Cup anyway, and I also missed the bus brigade in Northampton, which was pretty annoying to be fair, but I had to fly out to New Zealand anyway, and then won that. So that month was just crazy, to be honest. That was, looking back on it, it was a lot of hangovers as well, but it was very, very fun.
So obviously ahead of our pod today, I made some phone calls, and I also did my research before today's pod. I heard you were a really young, exciting prospect coming through at Saints in England. Would you modestly agree?
There was a lot of, when I came, I kind of came onto the scene. I did very well early on. So my first 3 games, I scored a few tries and like quite good tries as well. So that probably built up a little bit of hype around me. I didn't play my best rugby for England in 20, so I wouldn't say there was a huge hype around me in the England scene. It was just Northampton. I was probably spoke about quite highly there. But I was 19, but you don't really think about that then. You don't really think about a lot. You just think about, oh my god, that was amazing, and probably took my foot off the gas a little bit because of that. The hype, and you start reading Twitter every day, and I'm sure everyone's had it, and you start to believe your own hype a little bit, and it feels good. So I probably did see that hype and probably believed it a bit, which wasn't maybe the best thing at the time, but it was good fun.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think if you're playing for your boyhood club, the club that you've been watching as a kid, that you had that dream and that passion and desire to get to that level, and you've started with such early promise, I think you've got to embrace it, because I've met athletes that haven't and have maybe cracked a little bit under that pressure. But
I think there's a fine line with it. I mean, like you say, it was my boyhood club. All my mates supported the club. Everyone from my school, give or take, would have been a Saints fan. Yeah. So I used to go back to my old school, and everyone would be like, "Oh, like you're doing so well." And I bet there is that. Yeah, I think you should enjoy it, but there's also that line of knowing you haven't made it. And my dream goal was to play for England, and I kind of just thought that was because when I started playing well for Northampton, my name started to get thrown about, and I was like, "Oh, it's going to happen." Didn't actually think that at the time, but probably got subconsciously took my foot off the gas because I was thinking, I'm going there, but I didn't realise you still got to work hard. So I mean, there is obviously, I'm glad I enjoyed it, but I wish maybe, just in hindsight, took my eye off that for a bit and then enjoyed it maybe at a later date.
It was the 2015-2016 season that your luck appeared to change, where you suffered a number of horrible injuries, included a double leg break ahead of that year, meaning that you were actually ruled out for the entire 16 and 17 season 2. That must have been really difficult to take, Tom.
Because it all started, we played in Paris against Racing Metro. It was Dan Carter's first game for Racing, actually, so it was a pretty cool day in that. But I actually scored a try, and their second row still my foot and ripped my Liz Frank off my foot, my ligament. So I was out for 9 months with that, and I worked really hard to get back. I got in really good shape and worked really hard in the gym, and I think a lot of people said that as well. I did work really hard. And then first game back in pre-season against Rotherham, like you said, it was actually a triple leg break, That really hit me hard in terms of I worked so hard to get back, and I was really amped up for the season. I was really revved up, I was ready to go, and thought, I'm going to get back to where I was. And I guess that's where I worked hard again. I kind of took my foot off the gas a little bit, then I came back, and then to break my leg first game, that was a big blow. I remember getting stretched off, and then all of a sudden I was on gas and air, obviously. I remember just suddenly thinking, oh no, I'm going to be out for a long time here. I didn't know what I'd done, but I was like, it's bad, I can tell. And I just started crying, and then the crowd just started clapping me off, and that just set me off, and I was in tears for a good half an hour then, kind of realisation of what was actually happening. But yeah, I did the exact same thing and worked hard and tried to get back, but fortunately it was about, that injury took about 14 months to come back from. And with a triple leg break, like anyone who's had bad injuries, you come back and there's always a risk you might not be the same player. And was I the same player? I don't know. Probably not.
In March 2017, you teamed up with fellow Saints Tom Collins, who actually we're seeing this afternoon, in Australia, where you joined him at Randwick to progress your rugby after this injury. Did you feel like this was like the new start you needed? Yeah,
so my contract was running out end of that leg break season, and the Saints were really good for me that they wanted to re-sign me, but I knew, I think because I was out for so long, I needed a little bit of a break mentally. I wanted to go play in New Zealand, but timings weren't going to work out with the Premiership season starting, so they fortunately knew some people in Sydney, and they sent me over there, and they asked Tom if he wanted to come as well, so we went out over there for 2 months and honestly had the best time. We were a bit apprehensive was the rugby, because it was a bit of a drop in level. Was it going to be a good level to get back to? And it standard out there it's a very different style of rugby, but it was very, very high. There's some seriously talented players down there, but also just making friends for life down there. It was just, I guess what you could kind of call it was our little gap year, like in 2 months in Sydney, but while playing rugby, and it was one of the best experiences I definitely had. Wow. It was a different experience, but it was very enjoyable.
Well, after 5 years at Saints, on the 27th of March 2017, you parted ways with Saints and you joined London Irish. How were your 2 years there?
Yeah, I left Saints. Again, Saints were really good. They offered me a contract, but I felt after my injuries I needed a fresh start. So to get my career back on track, and London Irish were just dropping down to the Championship. They just got relegated, so I thought it'd be a good year to have in the Championship, rebuild myself, get some confidence back, and then hopefully come back up to the Premiership with London Irish. So yeah, I joined London Irish, and it was very different to Northampton. I was probably a bit naive in the sense I thought everywhere was the same, and obviously Northampton being my boyhood club and coming up through the academy there and having some 40 of literally my best mates, and then coming into London Irish where all of a sudden you're in London and no one really cares about rugby, to be brutally honest, whereas in Northampton everyone cares about rugby. Then coming to London and no one actually giving a toss really. So it was very different and took a bit of time to get used to. But then that Championship year, I played some of my best rugby. I absolutely loved it, did really well, got in like team of the season and all that in the Championship, and thought, I'm ready to attack the Premiership. Then fortunately suffered another leg break, literally second to last game of that season, and dislocated my ankle, and that obviously threw me back another. I was out for 8 months of that, but then came back into the Premiership season with Irish, and we were struggling as a team a little bit. So it was a very different kind of vibe to what I was saying about Northampton, when we just knew we were going to turn up and win, to then London Irish, where we just wanted a good performance. It wasn't necessarily, we obviously wanted to win, but we weren't expecting to win, if you know what I mean. It was a very different kind of shift in mentality. I think anyone who's played sport, if you're in a losing team, it's not as enjoyable as if you're in a winning team, like any aspect of life, I guess. Yeah.
How did it all end at Irish?
Like a lot of people at the minute, COVID obviously played a part in it, and also this London Irish, like every team now in the Premiership, brought in a lot of big players, a lot of big salaries in there, and unfortunately there wasn't room for me, and that's kind of how it departed there. So it ended kind of February time. I knew I wasn't going to be staying there 2020. Then obviously COVID hit, kind of, March time, and then we were kind of stuck at home for 4 or 5 months. I had no idea really what I was doing then. I knew I wasn't staying in London Irish, but a couple of things I had on the table before COVID, which were quite exciting, stuff in Japan and France, got taken off the table because of COVID, financial reasons, etc. They didn't know any clarity. There was no clarity behind. No one knew what they were doing, so they couldn't offer you a contract. So yeah, that was quite tough times. In those 5 months sat at home, wondering what I was going to be doing, and me being me was trying to put on a brave face.
Have you got some unfinished business in rugby?
No, I don't. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't miss rugby. I don't miss playing. I miss being around team and what comes with that, but I don't miss. I think because of my injuries and some of the stuff I went through, I fell out of love rugby. And my last 2 or 3 years in rugby were a bit of a slog, and I hate to say it, but because I was earning good money, that was a big part of it. And it was, it was like, I'm never going to earn this money, for a number of years, so enjoy it. But I found it hard to enjoy it, which probably at age 26, like, this is not normal. So I probably knew deep down, unless I was going to get a good contract somewhere, I was like, no, you got to stop now. There's no point. There's a lot of people who carry on chasing it, and they'll get back to earning good money in the future. But like, if you don't enjoy it, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, sure, I can understand that. You're playing a really important role with the RPA now. As a newly introduced partner to the RPA, we've just signed a 3-year agreement with them, a proud partner now, doing some great work. But you're doing some really important work. Can you explain your role with the RPA, what you're doing and why you're doing it?
I guess with the RPA, like you said, when I was playing rugby, they were awesome in terms of coming in and giving boys the option, but also the insight of outside of rugby opportunities, and open their eye that no sport lasts forever, really. And as I found out, and trying to get them into working life in some aspects and get them thinking about it. And I mean, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing at the minute with the RPA and Restart Rugby is because I had really found it challenging when I stopped. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and when I was playing rugby, I didn't really care. I didn't really think about it. I didn't at 1 minute think, maybe I should go do some work experience or go talk to someone about it, because I was so caught up in rugby, and that's your life, and you don't want to. You get a bit relaxed with it all, and you take it for granted that it could be over tomorrow, until it actually happens, and then you're like, well, maybe I should have done something. So my kind of reason for getting involved now is to give players my story, because I ended up in quite a bad place because of it. So to give them that insight and make them realise it really isn't forever, and they should be doing stuff outside rugby, like a lot of boys are, but there's so many which aren't. Which the rugby RPA are there for those guys, and their charity, which is Restart Rugby, are awesome with that as well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. We're going to talk a bit more about Restart Rugby later in the pod, but continue your good work, mate. I think everything that we do and any support that what you're doing, what we're doing, what anyone else can do for Restart Rugby is really important, just to help athletes like yourself. Okay, that was great. Let's go straight into the question round. You ready for me, Tom?
I'll give it a go.
Okay, so if you wasn't a rugby player leaving school, what would you have gone on to do?
So I wanted to become a yacht skipper and sail a little sailing boat. I just wanted to be in the sun. I wanted to do, Croatia Yacht Weeks. I wanted to be the skipper on that, which wasn't probably a long career. It was a very short, kind of 2 or 3 years, kind of out of goal. But no, I'm probably happy I didn't do that, even though it would have been good fun. That was kind of I loved being out by the sea and in the sun. That was where I was kind of happiest. So I always wanted to do something different.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So who was the funniest player at Saints? Because there was a big changing room, and
there was some serious characters there.
There was, and we're going to go on to that in a sec. So who was the funniest one that was just...
I think in his peculiar individual way, Tom Collins was up there. But when you first meet him, he's very shy. But then you let him out, he's one of the weirdest guys you ever meet in your life. Who else was quite funny? Phil Dowson, he's now coaching. When I was there, he was playing. He was a very funny guy. But yeah, there's some big characters in there, especially when I was there. Okay,
let's go TC. Who was the biggest character you met?
Biggest character I've ever met? There's a guy who plays for Harlequins called James Chisholm.
Yeah.
He's an absolute freak. But he is hilarious, and I think in rugby there's a lot of characters. I haven't met a few of them, but people like Joe Marler, which I think the game needs more of. I think he's more kind of, there's a lot of characters in there. Just I think way rugby is, it's hard to come out and be yourself in front of a camera.
Yeah,
but it'd be good for the sport if it does.
Do you have a nickname, and if so, what is it and why?
I feel like this might be a loaded question, is it? So obviously I got Steve-O. While I was playing, I had a nickname called Simon. It was basically an alter ego when I was drinking. Whenever I drank, Simon came out. And yeah, hopefully I think he's dead and buried now.
Who was the most talented player while you were at Saints?
I think one of the most talented was probably Stephen Myler. Most skillful. Some of the stuff he could do with a rugby ball was, I would never even dream of doing it. And the most talented Genetti was George North. Like, he was a freak physically. He could some of the stuff, his legs and power. He could have gone into a lot of other sports just because of his genetics.
Wow. Who was the best player you had played against?
Biggest name would be Dan Carter, like I mentioned. I think that's got to be. I played against Chesney Colby, who plays for Toulouse. He's a South African, where he won the World Cup winner now, actually, but he was electric. I've never seen someone move as quick as him. So he was, him or someone like Andre Pollard, the South African 10. Those two were pretty special.
Was there a fixture that you were quite excited about, ahead of a season? So,
yeah.
As a Northampton's fan, was there like a rival?
Well, Leicester Tigers was the big one at Northampton. Obviously, East Midlands Derby. That was a big one for us. I probably used to get most nervous about that. I'm not necessarily excited. I noticed a lot of boys used to get really excited. I used to get really nervous about it because it was such a big game.
Yeah.
So it was more nerves than that one. The ones I used to get excited about were if we ever drew Clermont in a European, because going to France and playing in France, and especially Clermont, the stadium was mad. It was like, I've been there. I've been to a lot of football games, and that would be up there with football games. It was so loud, like just drums, and it was a really cool place to play.
Awesome. Another sport you enjoy away from rugby?
So I used to play a lot of cricket when I was younger. I used to play for Middlesex and stuff when I was younger, but I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed it. It was one of those ones where I just got a bit bored and I needed to be doing something constantly. But I enjoy tennis. Yeah, I play a lot of tennis, and obviously running now.
Yeah, which we're going to go on to talk about.
Don't know how enjoyable that is.
Would you come back to rugby one day and consider coaching?
No, I always knew I never wanted to. I wasn't a rugby enthusiast in that way, in terms of I didn't study the game, which I think you need to have to be a coach. I enjoyed it. I love watching it. I love going to games, but I knew some of the boys who will go on to be coaches used to watch it and be like working stuff out. While I never did that. I just enjoyed it for what it was, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, you see that?" I'm like, "No, what are you on about? I was too busy looking over there." Like I just wasn't put together like that. I never wanted to be a coach. It was not for me. I knew when I finished my rugby career I was going to go and do something on my own or into the city or something like that.
Yeah. And my last question was, what was your golf handicap going to be this afternoon? But unfortunately, you can't now play golf this afternoon because you blew me out.
I think I've saved you. I think I've saved. Honestly, I think we'd be out there tomorrow still if I was playing. I'd be chopping it around everywhere. So I think I've saved you there.
Well, we've got some cool replacements, but it would have been great if you could have joined us. But mate, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Talk Sport and Property Podcast, sponsored by MPH Sports Property Academy. Download the app today from the App Store or Google Play by typing in MPH Sports, the trusted go-to app for sports people looking to buy or learn about property.
Tom, welcome back. I mean, today is the first time you and I have met, but having had some conversations with you and having met you via the RPA, I know property is something you're quite passionate about. When did you buy your first property and where was it?
So it was about 3.5 years ago now, in Northampton. It was actually a really nice 3-bed flat looking over the park, and I actually loved it, really loved it. But then I lived there for 6 months, and then I moved to London Irish, so I had to rent it out, and it's all let out now in Northampton. But the plan was to buy more in Northampton if I stayed there. But I think I've still got ideas to do stuff with that. It's a 3-bed flat. It's a terrace house split into 2, so the idea is hopefully one day buy the one below and turn it into some flats.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea of that.
So you've still got that property?
Yeah, I've still got that. Yeah,
cool.
It's all let out now.
So can I ask you, because obviously what you said 3 or 4 years ago, you're 27 today. For someone who was 23, 24, how did you find buying experience sort of first time round? How did you come about finding the property? Why did you decide that was the property for you? What did you pay for it? What was it on the market for?
Yeah.
Can you remember all that? And did you buy it on your own or was
so
else?
I bought it on my own, but I'm very fortunate. My mum's very financially aware, and she was always, if I didn't have her, I wouldn't have saved any money. So she was always very conscious of that. I knew I was earning good money, so it was like, right, you got to get on the property market. But in terms of when I was looking for a house, me being me, I just wanted somewhere nice. It wasn't like if I was buying a house now, it would be completely different. When back then, it would be more about the investment, and actually, unless I was going to live in it for a long, long time, it would be more about, right, what's the best to let out, and maybe some little bit of work to upscale it a little bit, upscale it a little bit. But back then, it was all about was it a nice flat, and it was a really nice flat. Unfortunately, I think I bought it quite cheap. So I bought it for, what did I buy? I bought it for 222, which obviously in Northampton, and hopefully it's gone up quite a bit since then. But I managed to get it cheap, which is all by pot luck. It wasn't anything to do with me being smart. Yeah, I think so. I think a couple were going through a divorce or something, so I got it pretty cheap like that. And I've spent a little bit on it, just liquor, paint, and carpets. But I think I think I got it valued last year, and it'd be about 260 now, 250. Nice. So hopefully, I've made a bit on it. And
what sort of rent do you get for it?
So in Northampton, I get 1,100.
Yeah.
But if I did do it, I could probably get about 1,300. But it's all, I've got a really good tenant in there, and that saves me a lot of hassle, and he looks after it really well. So I'm happy to give it a little bit for the lack of stress.
I was going to say, sometimes less is more.
Yeah, I mean, with this case, it's worked out really well.
Cool. So I know you said you bought that with a view of obviously living in it. Obviously 6 months later, you go and sign for London Irish. Great timing. Have you ever thought about buying a property with a view of renting it out since, or?
So that is something I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to, maybe do some student lets and stuff like that. Go up north, and I was looking at some properties up there where it was like, it was all selling the dream of 30 grand annually and all that. But obviously the houses weren't in great condition or anything like that. But also, you got to remember, when I left Northampton and Irish, I wanted to buy, I had enough savings to buy a place, but obviously I was then thinking, I don't know when my next contract is. That's the thing with sports, all on contracts. And so obviously when you finish sport, your salary decreases normally quite a lot. So I had to leave that part that I did want to. I wanted to end up buying a few. But because of the situation, unfortunately, I never did.
Sure. I mean, we mentioned earlier, we met through the RPA. And one of the reasons why we decided to join the RPA was because we wanted to help the sport with our free educational workshops. What knowledge do you have, Tom, in buying property through a property company as opposed to buying something in your own name?
To be honest, I don't have a huge deal of knowledge on that, but one of the things I know about what you guys do, which, looking back on my kind of situation, it would have just kept it all tied together and a lot more organised when I had it. I was, constantly speaking to different mortgage advisors, different, all insurance and everything like that. And I was 22 or 23. And to me, my mind was blown. I was everything. I was getting calls. I was like, "Who's this?" When I spoke to them yesterday, I had no idea. So stuff like that. Looking back on it, I would 100% preferred an option like yourself. Because I was very naive and didn't really know what I was doing at all, to be fair. And I probably would have saved a bit of money in certain places.
So I guess you wouldn't have experienced like a property workshop at Saints or at London Irish. I mean, if you had the opportunity to have gone to a workshop at Saints or London Irish that the RPA would have put on, like me coming in to do a talk, do you think that would have been something you would have attended?
I think a lot of boys in rugby are interested in property.
Yeah.
It seems to be, and I think sport in general. You earn a relatively good amount of money, so you want something to do with that money. And I think a lot of people straight away go to property, but they don't necessarily. I think a lot of people think they know what they're doing, and they think, just buy somewhere which looks nice, like I did, and it's not necessarily about that. So I think I know I definitely would have been interested in a property workshop, and I think 80% of the boys would as well. And I think it's something which a lot of people are looking to get into anyway.
I'm hoping that'll be the case actually, because I know I work obviously for a few of the boys at Saints, and they're very complimentary about the workshop that they listened to via a webinar that we did, and we've got one on property investment and we've got another one on buying a home. Tom, was property like a topic of conversation around like the changing rooms, or like when you travel to away games or anything?
Yeah, I think as soon as you see, when a boy's just signed a new contract and he's getting good money because he start talking about property. So yeah, I think it always is, and I met with some of the old Saints boys last week, and they were talking about properties and stuff like that. So I think it's always a topic of conversation, because it's something you got a 10-15 year career. You could pick up a number of properties during your career, and at the end of it have a nice little portfolio. So I think it's something a lot of boys talk about, and I think especially when I was there, a lot of people are uneducated about it and buy the wrong property. Don't necessarily think about long term. They think about, like I did, short term. When you're 22, trying to buy your forever home.
Well, it's just the education and confidence behind it, isn't it? I love the fact that you're going to experience new money, as you said, and then explore an appetite for property, buy your first home. The problem is that if you are only signing like a year contract or a 2 year contract, and suddenly you're moving to a different part of the country, you've got to reassess and think, well, actually, is that the right investments I need to be making? And I guess these workshops, when we do come in to talk to the boys, which hopefully after this month we'll be able to, it will just give them that experience and knowledge of understanding, well, is this the right decision for me? And they can explore different roadmaps in where they want to park their money for the coming years. Now, knowing what you know now, and obviously you have a new career, and what are you doing in the city at the moment?
I'm working as a debt broker now, working for a company called Arc & Co.
Yeah.
So working. I love it, to be fair. It's in the property scene, so it's working with a lot of developers, etc. Financing a lot of their projects, and I love it. It's a very sociable industry and a well-connected industry as well. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, to be fair. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I had to go through a few little jobs which I didn't enjoy to find this one. But hopefully, the people in the office have been amazing. I think me personally, it's all about different people, who you are, but I needed someone just to put their arm around me and teach me, I guess, and this is what this place has done. So yeah, it's been awesome. And
does property investment now become part of that plan, now that you've got a new stable?
We'll make some money first. Yeah, it's definitely something which I'm interested in. Like I mentioned with the house in Northampton, I want to do some stuff with that and hopefully turn it into something a little bit more of an investment in the future.
Good. I want to get on to the subject, which is the reason why we brought you in today. This time next week, you will be doing something quite extraordinary. Can you explain to me and everyone listening exactly what you're about to do and why?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, why I got helping out, while I'm involved in the RPA at the minute, is when I left rugby, I got very scared and didn't know what I wanted to do, and I ended up getting into quite a dark situation, and it spiraled a little bit out of control. And then kind of December time, ended up getting help and feeling a lot better. But I knew I needed to do something in terms of helping Restart Rugby, which is the RPAs charity, which, like all charities in the past year, have suffered. Their funding, because of the COVID, they haven't been able to do some events which they used to be able to big money makers for them. So I knew I wanted to do something for a personal reason to help myself. Running was something which really helped me, so that's the personal side, but also then to help Restart Rugby and help players who go through similar things, which after I did an article with the Telegraph, I realised so many players do go through similar things. So yeah, it was kind of ended up me, first of all, it was me saying that let's do 10 marathons because I'm a bit of an idiot, and thought, I can do that, but I've never run them further than 10k before January, so that was a bit deluded. But I wanted to do it soon, so next week I'm doing 5 marathons in 5 days, starting Wednesday, finishing on the Sunday. And yeah, hopefully already raised over 10 grand for Restart Rugby, so hopefully try and get a bit more And yeah, I've got some amazing people running with me as well. Got some friends and family, as well as some old coaches, and hopefully a few players will come out in the sport as well. So hopefully it'll be a good week, but looking forward to get going, to be honest, and getting it out of the way with, because it's going to be hard, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
We're going to personally make a donation of £250 to Restart
so
Rugby.
much.
Oh, you're welcome. Can you just maybe share with us some of the difficulties, that you're going to be coming across, and also how you've prepped for this training? And lastly, I want you just to share with us how other people can also make a donation.
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned a minute ago, I hadn't run further than 10k. Everyone goes, you're a professional rugby player, you're fit, but it's such a different type of fitness, which in rugby I won't run further than 50 metres because I never scored tries, so it doesn't matter. But now all of a sudden my training's gone from doing short, sharp stuff to long, slow stuff, and it's been such a transition. But it's been really interesting. I've lost, like I mentioned to you earlier, about 15 kg. So I'm very skinny at the minute and wouldn't be going anywhere near a rugby fit pitch right now, whereas I might break a few more bones. But I mean, the last, it's been 4 months, I've been training properly, been running 7 times a week, anywhere from kind of 30k runs to 10k runs and hill runs, etc., just to train my legs up. But it's what I've found out and what I've been taught is it's all about spending time on your feet. So it's, in terms of the actual lungs, I'm fine, it's just my legs could give way. So that's the only thing where I've been trying to work really hard on. But yeah, it's been interesting. I have really enjoyed it. I've kind of learned to love it, and it was, when you first start out, you're mentally fighting with yourself constantly, but now I kind of just learned to zone out and you kind of go in your own little world, which is quite nice, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of been the training, and I've had an awesome coach in Rich Hughes who's done everything for me pretty much. Like most of my life, I've always had someone telling me what to do, so it's been no different in this challenge. But yeah, in terms of donations, it was all over my Instagram page and Twitter and LinkedIn, which I think they're both the same, Tom Stephenson 13. Just giving page on there. I've just started an auction today. We've got a few shirts and small, memorabilia stuff, which is up for auction. So yeah, that's the way I'm doing it all at the minute.
Superb. Well, look, we're going to really push this. I think if anyone can generously donate something to the cause, it's for a fantastic charity. Restart Rugby is helping so many athletes and former athletes like Tom who has these tough challenges in their sort of post-career. So listen, thank you so much for sharing that story with us, and good luck. Where are you running?
The journey is from Franklin's Gardens, Northampton Saints' ground, to Twickenham Stadium. So I've been running kind of all that route into London and then back round to Twickenham. Yeah. And
can we join in? Can we watch?
So it will be all through Instagram. Obviously with COVID and everything, it's been quite hard to get. Otherwise, I would love to get more people involved. But but obviously we've basically videoing the whole week and then finishing in Twickenham Stadium, which then it'll be straight to the pub.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I say join in, I'll be standing there with a pint or a coffee on the sideline.
I mean, we're all going to the pub afterwards, so yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to have a beer.
Good luck, and if anyone can make a donation, then please do so. Listen, Tom, cheers for coming in. It's been absolute pleasure to meet you. I know we're going to go and meet a few of the boys at the golf course now for lunch, for your birthday lunch, which I'll treat you to. So listen, thanks for coming and talk sport and property, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and yeah, best of luck for the future. I'm looking forward to do some stuff with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Hopefully in property when I earn a bit of money, hopefully.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Tom.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Talk Sport and Property. Visit the App Store and download the MPH Sports app today, or keep up with us over on Instagram.